Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. First off, you do not need to be on the payode for it to move backwards. True story. The thing that I like in this, and this is like the encapsulation of why I don't like Reddit, Overwatch U is always full of, yeah, but, you know, yeah, this is true in 99.9% of the times, but also, like, doesn't matter what you can say, doesn't matter what you say, someone will come out and find a way to, like, they'll come at you with this 0.1% of the time true argument and be like, and because of this, you're wrong and stupid. And that's just Reddit in general, but, like, someone will always find a way. They'll always find a way, because if we go in here, if we go in, right, and look at the first part we see here, and then you get to Diamond, where the whole team chases the last enemy to spawn, only to prompt to get wiped from attackers, and by the attackers, and peacefully ride the cart to the next checkpoint. Then someone's like, that is a team chasing the enemy to their spawn altogether. So you spawn all together and have enough time to go back and contest. One person doing something stupid is a mistake. 6 people doing something stupid is a strategy. Like, this dude's clearly come out here posting a joke, right? Like, this is like a ha ha ha, Diamond people are bad, ho 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 ho, isn't that terrible when that happens, huh, fellow gamers kind of post. And then my friend here, Too Much Gaming, is like, oh, well, just go die with them, and then you'll respawn together. Ha, you see, that's called strategy. Even this, like, joke, we're like, hey, sometimes, you know. That doesn't mean it always works and is okay to encourage. That's more of a solo queue rule, which doesn't really apply if the enemy team is 6 people doing something smart. No, but if one person goes and gets picked, your team will get rolled. Now you're staggering. If you all go, you have a 25% chance of winning. If you lose, at least you'll all lose together, and you're not staggering. You're right, it's generally a good idea, unless you're playing an organized competitive environment with teams that are used to playing together. No, look, if one person runs off and gets picked, not all 5 of you should go and get picked with that person, right? Like, this is why I hate this place. I don't want to live on this planet anymore, is encapsulated, like, right here. Oh yeah, well, that guy ran off and staggered, so if we just all go up and die with him, hey, you know, maybe it'll work. Or, you know, yeah, maybe, pretty low chance, you know, maybe you just let that one guy go off and do something stupid by himself, you know. If you're by yourself, and you watch 5 people doing something stupid, you should go do that with them. But if you're 5 people and you see one person going and doing something stupid, not all 5 of you should go with that stupid person, right? Like, anyway, so team composition, cheat sheet generator, and map icon pack. What the site looks like. What it can generate. Okay, going to this website. Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't. I wish there were. Oh wait, no, I've gone over one. Masters to GM climb. Hey, good question. Good question. I haven't tried super hard to get into GM. I got to Masters and I was pretty much like, that's good enough. Now I'm trying to get good at a fighting game instead. I wish there was a video series explaining the basic concept of Overwatch for new and intermediate players. Team compositions. Yeah, there really isn't anything like that, is there? Something like Trump's basic teachings. Yes. This is for Hearthstone, though. By the way. This is all Hearthstone stuff. They are all really good videos. Yeah. There really isn't anything like that, is there? I should work on that, shouldn't I? Because we did one. We made a video about team compositions. But yeah, it's not really a sort of video you see that commonly, is it really? Like the basic stuff. Anybody got any people in here that are doing that? I'd love to see this. Been saying, Nope, nobody's got any suggestions for those videos. It's something to think about, isn't it? Let's put that one over there. And we'll come back to that another time. Because we did a video for team compositions a while ago. But yeah, there aren't a lot of videos like that about like the really basic core concepts of the game. One I've been threatening to make for a while was about zoning, which is something that new players never really understand the concept of, and is one of the more commonly seen questions that I've observed, is like, what does zoning mean exactly? Or like, how do you do that? And yeah, if you just type in into YouTube Overwatch zoning, you're not really gonna get much insightful content back at you. Plat Diva looking for tips. Would anyone be interested in reviewing a VoD? My Diva DM problem. As a Diva player, I have a big problem against alt blocking like Deadeye, Whole Hog, Bob, Barrage, and a few more. Because every time I hear them, I can't decide which way to block it. If Pharah uses ult, then I can rush her with boosters and kill her quickly. Or should I waste my DM without risk? And then I have a lot of questions like, if I use the DM, then I won't have enough for later, but if I won't have enough for later, but if I will rush her instead, it will probably won't be fast enough and I will lose my mech. If I see a Deadeye and my teammates are hiding, can I just let the McCree to waste it? But what if one of my teammates is not hiding and I don't know about it? Well, like, okay. If someone is not hiding and you don't know about it, like, you can only make plays based off what you do know, right? Like, you can guess, and you can try and read people and things like that, but really, like, you can only really, like, make plays based off of things that you do know, right? Or like, have a very strong suspicion of. So, if you think your whole team is hiding, but one person was not hiding and gets killed, like, you know, if you thought everyone was hiding, you thought everyone was hiding, right? Like, and then you can make the argument, well, you should have been more aware to know the dude wasn't hiding, and then you'd know, like, blah, 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 blah. But, like, if you think everybody's hiding, like, you shouldn't feel obligated to go out and hold defense matrix in front of the McCree, right? Like, if you think everybody's hiding, like, you don't need to go out and hold defense matrix, and, like, dude, in fact, oh yeah, my whole team's hiding, but, you know, I guess I'll just go and do it anyway. You wouldn't do that. So if you think everybody's hiding and then one person gets caught because they weren't hiding, you know, you shouldn't feel too bad about that one, to be honest with you. Like, the thing to feel bad about would not be, like, not going out and doing it anyway just in case. The thing to feel bad about would be like, well, I wasn't paying enough attention to know the dude was still out there in the open, right? So it's more a matter of perspective in that regard. As for the Pharah, like, it kind of depends. Like, if you've got somebody on your team that you think will kill the Pharah when you defense matrix them, like, Pharah is going to paint a big target on herself as soon as she uses Barrage, right? So, like, if you use defense matrix and it blocks the people she's trying to kill and then they kill her, that's great. But, like, if you don't think that's going to happen, then honestly, I'm in the camp of flying at the Pharah to try and kill her, basically, because, like, if you can fly right in her face, like, shoot her a little bit, the rockets bounce off your mech, you know, she dies. And that's fine, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you'll lose your mech, but, like, the way Pharah uses her barrage, you probably won't lose your mech in a location that's that terrible most of the time. So you can just back up and try and get another mech relatively quickly, right? And if you have self-destruct, then that doesn't even matter anymore, because you can just, yeah, you lost your mech, but you can just self-destruct, get another mech back if you think the fight's going to continue happening. So, like, it kind of depends on what you think's going to happen with the barrage. If you think somebody on your team can kill her while using defense matrix, or, like, enough people can get to cover that it doesn't matter, you know, that's going to be hard for barrage, but then, yeah, you don't need to fly at her. But if you're not sure about that, like, it's kind of the thing where, like, if you fly at the Pharah and kill her, then, like, that's kind of undeniably a good thing. You killed the dude, right? And you only lost your mech for it. So as long as, like, you don't die afterwards, then it's gonna be fine. So you kind of have to decide on what's going to happen, pretty much. But, like, for the McCree example, like, if you thought everybody was hiding and one person wasn't, then, like, don't feel bad about not holding it up for the sake of it. Just, like, try and be aware if somebody isn't hiding, and then you can try and cover them. Literally every single Moira I see in plat or below has the exact same set of problems, not healing when they should be. Like, so my issue with when people say that is that, like, it's just such an easy thing to blame. Is that I think people conflate this issue, because from my perspective, what most low-level Moira players have is they aren't trying to do enough damage. Because I always, like, the thing I see a lot is a lot of really low-level Moira players walking around without any fucking healing resource. So then, like, when they really need it, they don't have any. So they're trying to give somebody the good suck as quickly as possible, and then that's what the other person sees, right? They see the time the Moira should be healing, she's sucking. And that's because that Moira has actually wasted a bunch of her resource, and now it doesn't have any, so she's trying to get some back as quickly as possible when she really needs it. So, from my perspective, it's not healing when they should be, it's not finding enough opportunities to do damage. Because Moira players have it beat into their fucking skull that they're meant to be healers and not DPS players. So, like, I think that the problem low-level Moira players is the exact opposite of what this person says. They heal too much, and that leads to them not being able to heal when they should have to heal, you know? They got no resource. Healing when everyone is full, including... Yeah, that's part of it, you know, you see? So, okay, here's my issue with this guy now. Here's my list of problems with Moira players. They're not healing when they should be, but also they're overhealing the fuck out of people. Every single Moira player I see has the exact same set of problems. They're not healing when they should be, but they're also overhealing the fuck out of people. How can every Moira player have those two problems concurrently? I don't understand. It's a mystery. If only some savant, some genius could come and outline some kind of reason that a Moira player would be doing damage when they should be healing people. You know, if only we had some kind of hypothetical situation, but such genius has yet to be laid out before us, clearly. Throwing orbs when unnecessary, throw those orbs. If you don't have your ultimate, throw those damage orbs at people. Once you have your ultimate, don't throw the orbs anymore. It's like using Fire Strike, right? Like, yeah. The healing orb, like, you don't want the orb just sitting around doing nothing. Throw damage orbs, build up your ult. The problem is, they throw ults when they already have their ult built up. So then, like, yeah, you know, that's there's less point in doing that, because it's not really accomplishing anything. But, like, if you don't have your ultimate, like, one of the biggest benefits that Moira has is Coalescence builds really fucking fast, right? So, throw the damage orb until you have your ultimate. Then hold the orb to use for more specific situations. The exact same way one would use Fire Strike. You use Fire Strike until you have Earth Shatter, and then you save Fire Strike to use in specific situations. It's the same concept. Because, like, Moira's left click is plenty of healing. So, like, sometimes it's not, but most of the time it is. So you can use your orb to do damage while nothing's really happening. And then you build ult real fast, then you got Coalescence, and then you can use your orb, then you can save the orb for more specific situations. I need the healing orb now, right? Throw the orbs as much as possible until you have your ultimate, and then stop throwing the orbs until you need to throw the orbs. Being a DPS Moira, and yet somehow they're healing people too much at the same time. I just don't understand how they cannot be healing when they should be, and being a DPS Moira, but also they're healing people too much simultaneously. Isn't it incredible how they could be healing too much, but also never healing? Also, have you considered that if you see one man going out there and dying by himself, that perhaps we should get the whole team to rally around this man, because maybe we'll save him and win the fight through friendship? Does anyone else use mouse 1 for walking? Don't do that. Don't do that. Frustration and questions. But recently I felt like I have no clue what I'm supposed to do in my games. I seem to consistently expect players on both my team and the opposing team to behave in a way I've come to expect them to play at a higher plat, low diamond level, but in gold they just don't. Yeah. They won't. I don't really have a good way to explain this, but I often find myself wondering both what on earth my team is doing and wondering what on earth the other team is doing. I pride myself on my position, but I honestly have no clue where to position myself when teammates drop shields at random times. You use walls. Dive at random times. Push when the fight is lost and we need to regroup. Let them push by themselves and die. Don't go and stagger with them. Use every ultimate we have in an attempt to win a fight that's already lost. Stop healing at strange times, etc. I feel like you're exaggerating these issues a little bit more than they actually are, but, you know, we tend to remember the bad situations more than the good situations, so, you know, stupid monkey brains and all. I hope this doesn't come across as a rant about why do my teammates always suck, yada yada yada. Well, that's exactly what it sounds like, I'm sorry. Because they certainly don't. Also, I'm certainly not the best player around. Re-say that, I feel like I'm improving at all. It feels like I'm... Yeah. So, like, you have to adjust to how the other team plays, right? And how your team plays as well, right? Like, every game, you have to react the way your opponent plays. And also the way your own team plays if it's that kind of environment, right? Like, if you're playing, like, a fighting game, oh, he plays a fighting game now, so he won't fucking shut up about the comparisons to a fighting game. If you're playing a fighting game, right, like 80% of that, more like 70%, we'll be realistic, more like 70% of that is reacting to what the other person does and, like, reading the other person and getting, like, changing how you play to play around the other person, right? Like, oh, this dude fucking throws a lot of fireballs, doesn't he? So I'm gonna wait, and then when I know he's gonna throw one, I'm gonna jump over it and kick him in the teeth, you know? Oh, this guy goes really fucking ham, so I'm just gonna hold back a lot, and eventually he's gonna do something unsafe, and I'm gonna punish him, right? Like, two extremely different ends. You have to react differently to those two situations, so you have to read it and react like that. All games are the same way. Like, oh shit, this team goes fucking ham. So that means I need to stick closer to my team or play more conservatively because they just fucking go in, don't they? Or, damn, this team is really fucking passive and just sit like all bunched together all the time protecting each other. Maybe I should change to somebody who can punish that more freely, like a Junkrat, right? Fuck, my team goes ham. How can I try and save them when they do this? Well, you could try changing to, like, Moira. Or not Moira, Anna, and then, like, when the Reinhardt does the stupid thing, you can nano boost him when he charges in death-wise, and then, like, you heal him up, and now suddenly, oh, fuck, there's a giant Reinhardt in here that's very scary to people, right? You know, because, like, if they think the Reinhardt's gonna die and they blow a bunch of cooldowns on him and then he's nano boosted, they're gonna panic, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you wouldn't want to do that, if, you know, in a perfect world, you know, the Reinhardt wouldn't do that. You'd always be able to use nano boost for the ideal circumstance, but unfortunately, sometimes Reinhardt does dumb shit, and, like, the best thing you can do to try and pull him out of that is nano boost him. Because then he's healed up to full health and harder to kill, so if you can keep healing him, hey, maybe we'll actually win the fight. Maybe now this really bad engagement will turn into an okay engagement, right? So, like, you know, all teams will play slightly differently, both your team and the enemy team, and part of the game is reacting to these outside sources and playing around them appropriately. And all elos will also play differently as well, right? Like, if the lower you get, the more you can generally expect people to play too aggressively, right? Like, that kind of thing. But, like, if they're playing aggressively and they're bad, they're gonna make more mistakes, so you punish those mistakes and you try to minimize your teammates' mistakes as much as possible. So, like, you know, it's something you have to get used to. You have to, like, play around these changing elements, because every game is slightly different, right? Like, you need to react to it differently also. How to fight a team with only one healer in bronze. I feel like conventional wisdom is you need 2 supports, yet as a bronze player, I think I actually have a harder time dealing with opponent comps that only have 1 healer and an extra DPS. I typically play either support or tank. I find that in these focusing, picking off 1 healer above all else. If I'm on support, focusing and picking off their own healer. If I'm on support, swap to mirror their comp, switch to a tank. you guys think? So the thing, like, I see, like, the fucking 5 DPS, 1 healer team beat, like, good team comps all the time, right? It's just a matter of, like, this is going back to the old games of slightly different thing, right? The thing is that most people are not ready to play against an all DPS team, because you don't see it that often, right? The thing is, with the all DPS team, is they do a lot more damage than you, right? But they have poor sustain, because they only have 1 healer, right? Like, and it might not even be a main healer. So they have very poor sustain. So playing against the high DPS teams is mostly about surviving the initial engagement. Because they're all going to jump on you, and they're going to pick a fight with you, and, like, if somebody gets caught, they're dead, right? And if your team starts, like, splitting off, like, if it turns into a bunch of skirmishes around the place, right? Like, if you got, like, 2 people fighting 3 people over here, you've got, like, 2 people fighting 2 people here, there's 1 person fighting 1 person over there. Overall, these, like, multiple skirmishes that are happening, because the enemy team is all DPS, they're gonna do more damage in these skirmishes than your team is. So, like, if your Mercy Winston gets into a fight with their Reaper Doomfist, your Mercy Winston will lose that fight, right? Yeah, they can run away, sure, but, like, people have trouble knowing when they should run away, right? So it's about, like, actually beating the more DPS team is about, like, sticking together and playing as a team and basically weathering the initial engagement and then beating them because they have no sustain. The problem is that it's hard to get teams to coordinate and play with each other, so the better team comp gets split up. They get pulled apart from each other because there's multiple flankers, and then, boom, these skirmishes break out. Or the DPS team just jumps on them with 4 DPS ultimates, and the enemy team is like, oh, what the fuck? Oh, shit. And then everybody's dead right before they know what the fuck. It's about getting some kind of, like, coordination together, pretty much. So that's always going to be an issue in, like, Bronze, where there's, like, even less coordination, right? But I see, like, the old DPS team win a lot more than people say it does, just because the other team doesn't know how to play in that situation, so they end up getting fucked because they don't know how to adapt to this situation, right? So yeah, like, you know, because it's mostly one of those things where my team might kind of fuck me on this thing because they're all off doing stupid shit, and, like, I'm trying to get them together, but we're in Bronze, so it's hard, right? The best thing you can do, pretty much, like, as a support, is, like, try and punish the other team for doing this, right? Because, like, they're still bad, right? Like, you're in Bronze, they're in Bronze. The other team's still bad also. So, like, overall, they aren't actually going to do as much damage as they should, because they don't know how to play their hero correctly. Like, the lower you get in rank, the longer the time to kill goes, right? Because they don't know how to do their damage properly. Like, as you get higher and higher, people just take less and less time to die, right? Like, they just get fucking clapped, right? Because, like, oh, they're out of position, crunched on. Or, like, they know they're gonna die, so they just go out to die faster, because otherwise they're just gonna prolong their death, right? Like, time to kill goes lower and lower as you go up. But at the bottom, it's very, very long to actually kill one person. So as a support, you can, like, change to one person who does, like, a lot of healing. I recommend Moira, because, like, she does a lot of AoE healing, and, like, you can, if, like, the fight's very fractal and scattered, you can throw the orb, the healing orb, over to one area, and then that'll keep that dude alive while he's fighting, and then I can heal these people over here still, right? So, like, because you personally can just output a lot of healing, and their time to kill is going to be so low, or is going to be so long, rather, in low SR, you can kind of just out-sustain them, because they don't know how to do damage properly. If you do big heals for a lot of people, you should win the fight, right? You should. That's, I think, the best thing you can do, really, in, like, that kind of situation. If you're a tank, honestly, change to Bridget. Easy. Punish those people for doing stupid shit, and stop, and don't let them have fun. Go police the shit out of their fun. Best heroes to play with 200 ping. Junkrat, Pharah, Mei, Winston, Moira, not Reinhardt. People always say Reinhardt. Reinhardt's a bad one because you actually can't hold your shield up properly if you have high ping. Or inconsistent ping. Those are like the best ones, basically. Everybody else is like kind of iffy. Even Farah is kind of iffy, to be honest with you. Let's see. What kind of simple but effective abilities would you like to see on future heroes? I would like to see an ability that moves my allies. And this basically comes from, like, League of Legends, to be honest with you. There's a hero in League of Legends called Thresh, and he's like Roadhog. He's got a hook. He's got 4 abilities in League of Legends. He's got the hook, he grabs them, and he yanks them a little bit to him. If he pushes it again, he flies to the person. He's got line AoE that pushes people, like, if they're in front of him, it pushes him back, but if they're behind him, it pulls them forward, right? So he does like an overarm whip with his hook, basically. And he's got the box, which is just a giant cage he puts up, and then if you touch the wall breaks, but you're slowed by like 99%. But then the ability I'm thinking of for this is his W, which is his lantern. He has a lantern, which he captures people's souls in, don't worry. But he can throw the lantern out, and then there's this giant circle on the ground, right? And it gives a shield to somebody in the area it lands in. But if you click on Thresh's lantern, you get dragged to Thresh. So somebody's over there doing dumb shit, I throw the lantern over to them, they click on the lantern, and I yank them like half a screen away, and then they're not in danger anymore. And I think that's one of the sickest abilities in the game, actually. I love playing Thresh. He's a support, so he's not very fun. Like, it's not as fun as just, like, bullying people as Jax, which is my favorite thing to do. But I like Thresh. He can make a lot of plays, but I love when somebody's doing dumb shit, and I'm like, you dumb motherfucker. And I throw the lantern over to them, and they're like, thanks, Thresh. But what actually happens most of the time is I throw the lantern there, and they don't click on it! And then they just die. And I'm upset, and I'm pinging the shit out of the lantern, like, you could have clicked on that and lived, you dumbass. But I love that. I would love to see an ability that's just like, I threw something on the ground, they can move to it, and it'll drag them away, right? Maybe you interact with it, and it drags you to me, right? Or, I outlined this for a while ago, where I wanted to see, the Junker Queen. I wanted her to be like an inverse Roadhog, where I want her to be able to, like, hook an ally, and then, like, basically what happens is, it kind of, like, chucks the ally up in the air, and then they kind of, like, get a second to choose where they're gonna land, right? So you could use that to, like, throw, like, your Reinhardt into them or some shit, right? Like, yeah, let's go. And then, like, you can't troll with it still, because the person has agency over there where they land, right? Because if it was just literally like, I hook ally, then it could be like, I hook ally off cliff, right? So you need, that's the concession I make for people being assholes. You have some agency over where you land, right? I'd like to see something like that. I want to see an ability that lets me move my allies. So, is there anything else I really want? That's like the really big thing. I don't think I really want anything else, to be honest with you. No, because I would have also previously said something like the new Molten Core, also. Just some like giant persistent effect on the ground, but we have that, so... not that anymore. So yeah, I'd like to move my allies with something. Should I make a separate account where I focus on one specific role? If you can, I recommend it, because, like, you'll probably have better luck on that account, because you won't take it so seriously. People have this issue a lot, where their ult is a higher level than their main account, because they're less worried about it, basically. But, like, you can just practice other things more freely, basically. Like, if you can, I would recommend getting, like, another account to practice different things with, basically. Or focus on one specific role, whatever you want to do. Is this a video? This is a video. So if you want to watch that, there you go. That's the video. What is the best way to use Wrecking Ball's ult? Let's go back to the... So, I mean, you can use it as area denial. That's obviously the easy one. You know, you just chuck it into an area you don't want them to be, particularly. Makes it more inconvenient for them to fight. Particularly effective on maps where you don't really have a lot of options for where you go. So I'm thinking of like Route 66, third checkpoint. If you can get your minefield kind of like in the middle of the main thoroughfare, then that makes it very difficult for the enemy team to really have places they can go. So they have to clear the mines out, basically, or you like use it to cut people's retreat off, things like that. They can't engage properly because you threw it down in front of them, blah, blah, blah. But like, you can also like, you can engage with it, because if you gotta be pretty confident you're gonna execute this properly, but like, something I'll see like really good Hammond players do is they'll throw themselves above their team, and they'll activate their ult very high in the air, and then they'll slam on the ground, and if you do it like high enough in the ground and then like slam down and land on these people, like pretty much you can do it in such a way where like the mines are activating right as the other team are regaining, like back as they're landing back on the ground, so regaining control of their characters pretty much. And then that makes it like, if you do it right, that can like lead to the enemy team taking a bunch of damage or dying, right? But you got to be pretty sure you're gonna do that right at the same time. But I've seen really good Wrecking Ball players be able to like engage with the minefield because they can like time the slam well after they've used the ultimate, activated their ultimate basically. And then, you know, you can combo it. Like, they're in the Graviton, you throw the mines on them. They won't be happy about it, right? Is it as good as like a Graviton Barrage or Pulse Bomb? No. But will they be happy? No, they won't be happy. Blizzard, throw it in there. Earth Shatter, throw it on them. You know, you can use it as a combo ultimate. It'll never be as good as like other combos, but like you can combo with other ultimates as well. You could combo it with like a Winston. You use the minefield, he pushes them into it with Primal Rage. Diva uses her ultimate, she throws that way. You put the minefield where they would logically go to retreat, so then suddenly it's like, oh fuck, what do I do, right? So like, those are all kinds of things you can do, but like, pretty much like zoning, like getting really good at engaging with it, and comboing are like the best uses for it, pretty much. Is it important to focus on crit hit accuracy more than weapon accuracy? Worry about weapon accuracy first. Once you get your weapon accuracy really high, then like try and focus on the crit a little bit more, but like try to get like a really good baseline weapon accuracy down, because like ultimately, like I'd rather you kill a dude slightly more slowly but consistently rather than very fast sometimes, but then also not at all at other times, right? I think consistency is way more important. So like focus on the weapon accuracy first, and then once that's really high, then maybe start focusing on the crit more. But like ultimately just hitting people is the important thing. For someone like Widowmaker or Ashe, you know, it's a little bit more important, but you know, ultimately still hitting the dude is the most important thing. Are forced losing streaks really a thing? Earlier in season, I was climbing very well. I was improving, carrying my weight in all games. I climbed to 3,800 SR, then all of a sudden I started losing. I lose again and again. I keep taking breaks and trying to improve and focus on my mistakes. But now I'm losing nearly 400 SR. I want to play, but my mentality is so bad now that I can feel it. I always want to quit. It's so frustrating. Is this a common thing? It's extremely common. There's always at least one post every week about it, isn't there? And the answer is kind of always the same. Eventually. Like, 11 losses in a row? Like, honestly, that isn't even as bad as some people have. Like, some people go on, like, really bad losing streaks. Personally, I've gone on losing streaks that are, like, 20 games long. It happens. You know, eventually, it stops happening. This is the thing, is, like, my mentality about it is basically statistics, right? Like, eventually, over a long enough period of time, it's going to even out. There's an amount of variance. Like, sometimes you're going to win 20 games in a row, and sometimes you're going to lose 20 games in a row, you know? And one feels a lot better than the other one does, you know? But, like, the way math is, like, overall, you're going to break out to roughly a 50% win ratio one way or the other, right? Outlier cases, yeah, some people are gonna have like 80%, some people are gonna have 20%, you know, life that way. But for the most part, your win ratio overall is gonna break out to be roughly 50%. So like sometimes though, you're gonna win like 3 games in a row, you're gonna lose like 4 games in a row. Sometimes you'll win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, right? Sometimes you'll win 2, sometimes you'll lose 1, so on and so forth. And sometimes, variance is the way, sometimes you're going to lose like 20 games in a row. Over a long period of time, it'll even out, but sometimes that's going to happen to you. So, like, my mentality about it is, it's just math, it's statistics. Eventually, it's going to even out, but sometimes you have to go through a really shitty part of that math, right? Sometimes you'll go through a really cool part of that math where you win a lot, but sometimes you'll go through a really shitty part of that math as well. It's just kind of the way it is, you know? You're gonna have to just kind of deal with it. Eventually, like, you'll win a few games and you'll get your you know, you'll get your groove back, basically. You get your mojo back, all that. Like, you just kind of have to get through it, pretty much. A couple months ago, I got an alt account. This time it was a little gold. Yep, and climbed to 2,000 and stopped trying. I stopped trying to grind my mind up. I got to and gone further than that. Yeah, no, like, I literally just talked about this. People, very common. People on their alts are higher than their mains because they basically are less worried about it, right? Like, they're not taking that account as seriously, so they're not as stressed about it. So, like, they do better overall because they're in a better mental place to do well, pretty much. So, yeah, that happens. In what situations after you die should you wait for everyone else to spawn versus charging back into battle? Pretty much, like, there's just a risk you're going to get picked off, so it kind of depends on the enemy team, right? Like, if they're mostly static, you don't really have to worry about getting picked off that much. Like, if it's like Soldier McCree, right? As long as you don't go too far up, you're going to die. You're not going to die. But if their team is, like, kind of divey, or has, like, a bunch of picky, like, people that are good at getting picks on it, then you should wait for, basically, your team to all be back together again. Yeah, especially if you're Ryan and Zarya. It seems intriguing. Basically, I'm trying to understand in what situation should I wait for my hard reset after I die instead of jumping back into the middle of the fight with my team. Oh, going back into a fight that's currently still happening. Rule of thumb, just like if your team's down 2 members relative to the enemy team, like, you should be resetting. So, like, if your team is still fighting, like, if you're not going to win the fight, just let them die and reset, pretty much. Like, if you have a decent chance of winning the fight, if you're only down, like, 1 person, or you're, like, you have a big ult advantage or something, you know, sure, whatever, you know, you can maybe make it work. But, like, if it's, like, you're down 2 people, you don't have a significant ult advantage, you pretty much lost that fight, so you should just wait for a hard reset, pretty much. If you can. Like, sometimes, like, the way some teams are, like, you might just end up staggered the whole game, and, you know, that's going to feel bad, but, like, to be honest with you, that's the kind of game you're probably going to lose regardless of what you do. So, like, you kind of have to play it by ear, but, like, in that kind of situation, a lot of the time you should just be waiting to reset. And if your team keeps staggering all game long, then I'm sorry, like, you probably lost regardless. How to get value as Widow. For the past month, I've been practicing other DPS heroes and if probably fit with team comps and counters, but I'm having trouble with Widow. I feel that my aim of a diamond player, but I don't know what to do with it. Whenever I play Widow, I feel like I just get rolled unless I can pick 3 or more on the enemy team before the fight begins. How does one get value as Widow without winning a 1v6 against the enemy team? So basically, like, line of sight is the best thing to abuse as Widowmaker, because Widowmaker, like, every hero has a zone of threat. Widowmaker's is one of the most threatening zones, right? Like, if we think about, if we want to apply, like, a gradient to it, right? Like, somebody like Mercy, her zone of threat is, like, basically green, right? Like, if you look at her circle, she's got, like a moderately sized circle that's, like, green, and, like, that's her zone of threat. But if we think about Widow, her zone of threat is her entire line of sight, and it's bright red, right? Because, like, she can one-shot you, unless you're a tank, in which case she can two-shot you, right? Like, so Widowmaker's zone of threat is extremely scary. So, like, yeah, being able to click on the heads real good is always nice. Like, that's definitely a benefit when you play Widowmaker. Clicking on the bad men, good, until they stop moving. But if you can stand in a position where it makes it very difficult for the enemy team to position well, then that's also good. A fairly straightforward, but not all too likely example I use is on Temple of Anubis. Because if we imagine the first checkpoint, right? You're attacking. Your team is pushing up on the left-hand side, as you do, and you're playing Widowmaker. If you can, the enemy team are going to stand on the archway, and they're gonna stand up on the bridge, rather, and they're going to try and, like, you know, they'll stand a little bit on the platform, and then they'll, like, try and push them back and all that. But generally, if you can, you want to stand a little bit further back, closer to the bridge, so you can try to, like, have them run at this long funnel at you, basically. If you're playing Widow, and you can stand on top of the arch, then suddenly they can't stand on the bridges freely anymore, right? They have to suddenly push a lot further forward. Like, they have to basically stand on the platform, behind the wall, or behind the pillars, or behind a shield, right? So it makes it a lot harder for them to position. They have to position closer to your team. or risk getting, like, they have to position closer because that's where the cover is, or very far back as well. But then that creates problems for other reasons for them, right? So they have to position either very close, very far away. And if they're standing on the platform, they have to be standing close enough to the enemy team that they're behind the wall, or be standing behind one of the pillars, which is a very small area to stand in, and you basically have to stand still to actually use it as cover from Widow, right? Or a shield. But if the shield's looking at you, it's not looking at them, which makes it easier for your team overall. So basically, by standing there, you force the enemy team to position differently, and generally in a way they don't want to position, right? Because they want to be further away from the enemy team and have them run at them over this long area, right? Unless you're a dive comp, we're assuming a relatively normal-ish comp of, like, Soldier Hanzo or something, right? Ash Hanzo, whatever. So, like, if you can do that, it drastically limits the amount of places they can stand, and those places are, like, a lot worse than they want to be, right? And they have to respect that you're there. They have to respect the fact you can one-shot them. So, you know, you're shooting at them, you're harassing them, you know, you're throwing your mine at them for some damage, what have you, you know. And you're just, like, being really annoying. So you're abusing your extremely scary zone of threat to make them stand in worse positions. And then that's how you do zoning, basically. So, like, you know, people focus on the clicking, but, like, Widowmaker is really good at zoning people. Because, like, even if the Widow is bad, right? Like, even if you're playing against the worst Widow in the world, law of large numbers, she's gonna click on your head eventually if you're just standing out in open space, right? So, even if the Widow's bad, right? Like, even if your aim is only okay, they have to respect the fact you can one-shot them if they're a squishy hero. Like, even if the Widow is bad, you still don't want to be standing just out in Widowmaker's line of sight, right? So, you can abuse her scary zone of threat to get value out of Widow. And I think that's a pretty underrated part of Widowmaker overall. Because people focus on the whole, like, click the men real good, get fucking pentakill, play the game, right? Oh dear, oh no, what have we done? Fucking Windows. What's the quickest way to farm CP? Win games. Does anyone need a top 500 tracer guide? No one needs it, but I'm sure it would be appreciated. Well, you know, some people might need it, but you know. Zenyatta Transcendence Guide. Let's peep the video. What's it at? There you go, that's the video. Bearing in mind I haven't looked at any of these videos I ever show you, so I can't vouch for their quality. But hey, you know, there's a video for you. Stacks in solo queue is a joke. Ranked is a joke. How can you call this game balanced and competitive when you get mashed against 6-stack pre-made when you solo queue? How many times did I get paired with 3 to 5 stacks? Too much. Why? Why there is not a group queue and real solo queue? Don't say to me that the queue time would be longer. Who cares about queue times in a competitive mode where you can't have a good time seriously? People care a lot about that, actually. Even if you're saying you don't care, if you say, I don't care how long I have to wait in queue, as long as I get a good game, you're lying. You do care about how long the queue is, actually. You don't want to be sat in that queue for 10 minutes to play one game, do you? Really? Well, I would to play a balanced game. Not if you were actually in that situation. You'd actually be sitting there like, oh god, this game is dead, and you'd alt F4 after a while, wouldn't you, in reality? So no, you can't say the queue time doesn't matter, because you do actually care what the queue time is. I'm really pissed off for losing SR because I can't do nothing. And with a 5-stack constantly blaming me for everything, even when I try to flex and do my best, it's even more frustrating. I'm done with Ranked. I can't enjoy it anymore. I tried so hard, but nothing is done correctly to improve it from Blizzard. The looking for group system is a total failure. No one uses it anymore because everybody knows it sucks more to use than solo queue, especially in high ranks. Even though I'm complaining about how solo queue is awful, I'm still waiting for a role queue or something that at least give me the message that Blizzard cares about the game itself. So the role queue I don't think is ever coming. A genuine role queue I don't think is coming. If it does come, it'll be an extremely long time from now. Stop crying, you baby. Is pretty much going to be my response to that. You know, like, the whole point, like, you're playing a team game, right? The whole point of the competitive mode in a team game is you're proving you can play consistently well. As long as you can play consistently well, you will climb over time. You will not necessarily climb fast. Most people won't climb fast. In fact, most people are going to climb with like a 51-52% win ratio, right? So, if you play consistently well, like, you'll climb. That's the whole point. You're proving you can play consistently well. It's a team game. There's an amount of variance in there. Every team game's that way. You go play any team game you want. You go play fucking League of Legends. You go play Dota. Any team. You play Overwatch. Any team game. There's an amount of variance in there because there's a few people on your team that can do really badly and there's a few people on their team that can do really well. So there's an amount of variance in there that is out of your control. But as long as you play well, you'll climb because there's less people on your team that can do badly, right? 6 people on each team, you're taking up one of the slots on your team. So assuming you're not the problem, your team has a higher chance of winning because there's one person on your team you know won't be bad, right? And if you can duo, hey, you've got, as long as you know the person you're doing with isn't trash, right? You got 2 people on your team, and then the chances increases further, right? I do think after that point, after that, like, duo queue, you start to get a little bit more iffy on how true that holds up. But, like, solo duo, I think that's pretty much the case. You just have a lower chance of losing because you can remove some people from your team from doing badly. If you're duoing, then there's only 4 people on your team that can do bad. There's 6 people on the enemy team that can do bad, right? So, you have a higher chance of winning, assuming you're not the problem. If you can't deal with the variance of a team game in a competitive mode, go play a competitive game that doesn't have teammates. Go play a fighting game. Go play StarCraft. But those games are really fucking hard, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you really want to. Because, you know, the cool thing also is that, like, if you're playing a team game, sometimes you can only be doing, like, okay, or you're doing badly, but someone on your team can do really well and carry you, in fact. So, in a way, being on a team game can sometimes benefit you. It's just, again, we always remember the bad times better than the good times, right? So, if you can't handle the variance of having teammates, go play a competitive solo game instead. Go play a fighting game, go play StarCraft, go play Fighters. That's a good fighting game. So, you know, very easy, very casual, friendly, which will probably help you. You, specifically. How do I create space in open areas? But only the last 2 seasons. In the current one, I play him on comp, and I try to get better with him, so most often I see myself in this situation, I'm real to attack. I mark the 4 areas, the 4 ways I see on which I could engage. On this elo, the opposing team usually isn't completely stacked. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, that's pretty much what you do. So they're all there, right? That all shows up over there, right? Yeah, okay. It's not particularly centered, but you got the idea. Let's say I brought the payload to the open area and gathered my team after a lost team fight. Now I want to engage the enemy. They use the open sightlines to eat my shield from the moment I turn the corner and have the possibilities to retreat if I get too close. To shoot me from multiple areas and push and I communicate my actions and announce important enemy positions and even try to keep up with the red ults. But this is gold, so it's unlikely I can find someone to take a specific position or hold. Please don't just do it. Okay, so Rialto is really hard in particular just because, like, this area is one of the hardest to regain momentum in if you lose it, just because of how open the area is, you know. To an extent, it's always going to be like, you know, in like World War I or II, over the top, you know, out of the trenches. It's going to be kind of like that to an extent, always. Where you kind of eventually are going to have to just sort of rush at them, really. So, like, if we're playing like Reinhardt, basically, what you want to do is you want to pick the area that has the most cover to abuse. Basically, you're exposed to the enemy team for as little as possible, and you can close the gap on them. So, like, going these ways in particular is really hard to do, because, like, if they're there, they can see you the whole time, right? So they're shooting at you the whole time you're marching up, and you've got a lot of distance to cover. So those 2 ways, like over here, you don't want those. So we're gonna cross those over. Like you know, depending on what your team is, you know, like what your team's gonna do, sometimes they're just gonna go that way. But like ideally, you don't want to go these ways. 1 is better than 2, really, because you're exposed for less time. But still, like, that's like, you got a lot of work to get your team to go that way. So like, these two ways, they're not that far out of the way, and like, you're less exposed. If for like the payloads like here, I'd recommend going this way, because like, you poke your face out, you can get back up to the payload pretty quickly, and then you can use that as cover. And the Rialto payload is pretty good for using as cover. There's the doorway over here you can use as cover, you can use this little bit as cover as well. So basically, like, your shield's exposed to them for the littlest time, you can get to cover reasonably quickly, and then, hey, now you've got cover, you can let your shield regenerate a little bit, you can push it towards them, use the payload to support you, the healing, cover, all that, and then when you get closer, you can rush them. 3, similar concept, but they'll be able to see you for a little bit longer. You do have high ground advantage as you're going, so anybody that benefits from the high ground can, like, stay behind to try and pressure them, and you're still not exposed for that long. So, like, I personally really would like 4 a lot in that situation, just because of the sheer minimum amount of time you're out in open space exposed to them, but 3 is also good. So, like, it is hardest in open areas, but, like, the same concepts basically hold true, where, like, you want to have cover other than the shield you can use. And you want to move from cover to cover. Which, you know, basically, the cat's coming. If you, are you coming or not? My son. What are you doing? Here he comes. Here's my son. So, like, it's the same concept as the other map still. Like, you want to go from cover to cover and then have something you can use other than the shield as cover. Which, like, you know, payload, very easy. You can use that as cover the whole time. It's healing, blah, 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 blah. What's another map where this happens? What's another, like, really open space map? I'm going through them in my mind. I can't think of another one off the top of my head. Dorado. The end of the second checkpoint and the third checkpoint. Those are pretty open spaces, right? So, like, Dorado, second checkpoint, you got to the end, you're, like, right outside the gate, you stall out, now you gotta regain momentum, right? So you can go, like, right up the street at them, like the same way the payload would go. But then if you got it right to the end of the, like, the little open area, then you've got a long way to go out in open space again to get to it, which can be hard to do. If you go right, like, go out the gate onto the street, go right side around the church instead of left side, then you circumnavigate, like, a lot of where they'll be standing, and you can, like, go out into the courtyard again and just try to rush up at them, but you can also go along the right-hand side and, like, come out, like, right next to the payload and try and go that way. If you really want, you could, like, go up and over as well on the right-hand side, and try to bully them a little bit from high ground, then jump down once you have an advantage. Or you could try going left, but go through the bank instead of just up the street. In which case you, again, have less distance to travel in open space, but you do have to funnel out of a fairly narrow choke point at them, so that has its own drawbacks as well. Third checkpoint, if you stall out at the bridge, right, on the very last checkpoint on Dorado, then a lot of people just try and keep going through the same route the payload goes, but then, again, there's that giant open space with nothing in it, and you gotta go around the 2 corners to get back to the payload. They're gonna be standing in the corner, so it's just like you're trying to poke your face around the corner at them at this giant open area, which is really hard to do. So instead, it's better to go up the right-hand side for the small door on the right, then you can go up on the high ground, or down under, depending on which way you'd rather go. And you're, like, right there. The payload's right there. You were exposed to the enemy team for basically 0 time before you were back to the payload, which you can use to support you again. So, like, it's like the same concept as the other maps, cover to cover. It's just you have less cover to use, so sometimes, like, the route you have to take is a little bit less intuitive. And sometimes your team just won't want to go that way because it's too inconvenient to go that way for them. In which case, you were probably going to lose regardless. And that's just life sometimes. But, you know, it's the same concepts, you just have a little less to work with in terms of cover, basically. I don't think the game needs a hero that cleanses CC, but rather a rework of how CC works in the game. I think you're all babies with the CC situation. I think you're all just bad and don't know how to play around card control. That's my unpopular opinion. I think everyone's bad and just doesn't want to play around card control. Isn't he a happy-looking soul? So, what does creating space mean? Look at that. I'm a plat main tank, which has watched many coaching and VoD reviews. All the videos I've watched say a main tank's role is to create space, but what does that mean and how do you do it? So, basically, like, I always like to describe things in terms of circles around people. This is just how I am, right? So, if you imagine your team, right? Like, we'll imagine, you know, we're playing Reinhardt, and we've got, like, a pretty static team. We'll assume we've got, like, Ana, Zenyatta, Zarya, Hanzo, Ashe, right? You know, pretty, like, immobile for the most part team that just kind of, like, deathball-ish, right? And we'll assume the enemy team is, like, something roughly the same. So, your team basically has this circle around them, like, this is the safe space, right? This is where my teammates are close enough they can help me. Like, if somebody's going to jump in, they have to jump into 6 people, so they don't want to do that, so that's a scary place for them to go. So this circle around us here is pretty much safe, because we're all huddled together, right? But the enemy team, they have the red danger circle around them, right? So our goal is to make our safe circle overtake their dangerous circle, pretty much, right? Like, we are trying to, like, push them back as much as possible. So we're trying, like, they got the red danger zone. Like, we come out into this area, that's scary. We don't want to be in that area because that whole place is scary. We're trying to push them back so that we can take the point, push the payload, whatever we're trying to do at the time, right? So the goal is pretty much like you as Reinhardt, the whole space around you theoretically is safe, right? Because you can hit anybody that comes close to you, you can block for people, right? The whole behind your shield is like no damage allowed zone, right? Put the sign up on the treehouse, no girls allowed, no damage allowed. And like you have the scary area in front of you as well where you can earth shatter them, right? So your goal as Reinhardt is like you're gonna use your tools to keep your team safe. So your scary zone around you, your shield, your threatening zone in front of you. You're gonna use all of that to push the enemy team back. And so you reduce the enemy's scary zones as much as possible. They got a soldier, his scary zone is like his whole line of sight in front of him because he can shoot people. You can negate that zone entirely because you standing there creates a block for your team, right? So you make space because you've removed a dangerous place from the map, right? You looking at soldier has reduced his zone of threat just because your shield is blocking his damage. So you creating space is blocking soldier, and you walk your team forward, and the further you walk them, the more space you've created for them, because they couldn't get shot. You were blocking for them the whole time, right? So you made space by walking them forward with your shield up. You reduced the dangerous area on the map as much as possible, right? There, Reinhardt, you think he's got Earth Shatter. Suddenly, he's got that giant scary cone in front of him where, like, your team might get wiped if they're out in the open, right? So, hey, you stand right in front of Reinhardt, you hold his shield up, your shield up in front of him. That whole dangerous cone in front of him completely removed because you're holding the shield up. So suddenly, there was this giant triangle of danger. Now there's no triangle of danger. So you made space by removing that dangerous area from the map again. That's basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to reduce the amount of threats to your team as much as possible. And how you do that will differ from tank to tank. Reinhardt's just the most straightforward one. And you know, if you're a plat main tank player, you probably play a lot of Reinhardt, right? So it's mostly just about, like, walking at the enemy team, pushing them back, reducing the their zone of threat as much as possible by blocking for your team, just zoning people off. Like Genji's trying to jump on your Mercy. You stand next to Mercy, and you hit the Genji when he comes in. You made space for the Mercy, because suddenly Genji can't freely jump on her anymore. So you made space for Mercy, because now she doesn't have to worry about Genji getting up in her personal space suddenly, right? Angela, I need healing. So, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to remove dangerous areas from the map, basically. You know, if you're Winston, you pretty much, like, jump on the enemy team, and Soldier's scary area is his whole line of sight in front of him, right? If you're Winston and you jump on him, suddenly he has to dedicate his whole zone of threat to you. right? So you removed that zone of threat from the map entirely, because now he's just looking at you. So now your team doesn't have to worry about that. So that's how you make spaces like Winston, right? That's basically what you're trying to do. Remove dangerous areas from the map. Should I play comp with Gold Friend? I'm a bronze competitive player, my friend is gold. Should I play with him or by myself? I usually play with other bronze players, and they're super easy to kill. I usually always win. We're much better in my opinion, so what should I do? If you want to play with your friend, play with your friend. It's a video game. If you want to have fun with your friend, go have fun with your friend. Would there be a demand for a semi-advanced main tank tips and such? Yeah, that's something I should probably work on. Though I've played a lot more support and DPS by this point, but I did play Reinhardt for 8 seasons, so, you know. God, that was dull. Thank goodness they released other heroes I liked a lot. They're, like, also in demand to play, like Bridget and Moira. Oh, you like Bridget? Oh my god, what are you, actual Satan? Yeah. I really like to hit the people who are bad with the crowd control, and then they cry. Oh, Bridget's overpowered, said the Genji who jumped into 6 people with his sword out. Oh, she's so overpowered. She didn't let me just, like, auto-win by pushing Q. I have to play around crowd control? Oh, no. I just want to do shit and not have to worry about getting punished. Preference between a Tracer and a McCree. As the title says, would you rather have a Tracer or a McCree main on your team? So, like, on a very cynical level, I'd say McCree, just because it's easier to be consistently good at McCree, in my opinion, than Tracer. But, if we're assuming both players can consistently play really well, it's Tracer, because she can hard carry a game if the Tracer's really good. So, if we assume a base level of, like, pretty good competency, Tracer. But if we're, like, out in the wild, McCree is easier to play. So, McCree. Shit. When you made our VoD review, you talked about being snowballed on certain points and recovering from. Let's have a gander. Who's this from? There you go. Go watch that if you want. Empty till. If you see 5-6 people in Graviton Surge with Trons, make sure you melee. So basically the enemy team is grabbed, you have 2 courses of action, go for individual kills, one-shots, try to area them all down. Very hard. Is it the counter you grab with the Zen ult? Many heroes in this game. If they melee in the grab, I mean, yeah, you know, Zarya wants to do that. Like, you can go up and right-click into the grab. You should melee between each right-click because you're just doing more damage and it doesn't add delay, you know? So, like, you know, good practice, yeah, though unlikely to make that much difference a lot of the time. I will maintain that the rating system is rigged in one way or another and that forced streaks are in place in some way, shape, or form. What do you mean forced streaks? Like, you think Blizzard is, like, reaching over to you and just going, fuck you. Like, right? Like, sometimes it looks like win-win-win, loss, win-win, loss, win-win. Yeah. Because that's the variance in statistics. Sometimes it does look like that. Winning streak games. The most suspicious thing. The most suspicious thing in the losing streak games. My team is full of extremely high-level players every single time these losing streaks begin. The enemy team is always a less than 2-star bronze border. My team is always extremely high-level players. I'm clearly pitting it against a few Smurfs. And we replace it because it's going, like, it's basing your average MMRs and shit against each other. Like, my team is full of extremely high-level players. So, like, what do you think? It's deliberately matching you against all the Smurfs so that you lose? No, it's because the Smurfs haven't yet been placed properly. So it's like, sometimes you're gonna get matched against the Smurfs, and, like, yeah, you know, that'll suck. That's all video games. Like, the way this is phrased, like, do you think Blizzard is specifically like, oh, he's getting a little bit too cozy over there, isn't he? Let's put a few Smurfs in his game, right? Like, Well, no, the silly argument, why the hell doesn't this happen to insert the best player in the world? So much better than these players. The only reason he's not top 10,000 rating is because an elo system like this prevents him from reaching 10k rating. But he still has the MMR. Like, the MMR is still happening as well behind the scenes, just so you know. There's nobody from which he can extract more rating. So this shitty non-argument that nobody should take seriously. The rest of us cannot accurately reach our real rating because there is clearly a system in place that makes it grotesquely difficult to do this. A system that is manipulated and rigged. See? It's actually manipulated and rigged. It's actually working actively against him through malicious intent. That makes it almost impossible to climb, even though we're gonna read this whole fucking thing. Feel free to come here and downvote. First of all, I started playing this game in the very first beta wave available to us normal players. That includes streamers, and while it doesn't lend me any credence, I just want to say that I've had suspicions of the manipulated nature of Overwatch competitive mode since Season 2. In Season 2, I played on 2 accounts and managed to get both to Mid-Master. On one of them, I got Mid-Master almost immediately and stayed there for hundreds of games. On the other, I was stuck in low Diamond, less than 3,200, for 400 games, and it drove me insane. Because the same day I'd lose 5 in a row on that account, I'd go on my Master account and shred people. To remedy this, I decided to abuse their shitty streak system on my Diamond account. I dropped the rating to 1900, so I threw a lot of games, first off, right? So that's how you know this. I threw all the way from mid-diamond down to silver. So that's how you know he's done the hard science. He threw a few hundred games to get here. I tried getting a win streak. At first I was actually struggling at that rating, and every time I got huge win-loss streaks after one another, until I hit a really good win streak which propelled me to 3,600 rating without a single loss. After that I lost 11 games in a row, and at this point I already knew there was something wrong with the system. So what I'm hearing is, I'm like a Diamond Masters player. I threw my way down to silver. I lost a few games, but then I won every single game, until I got back to the rating I should be at. How strange is that? It's almost as if you reach over and put a Masters player in a very low rating, they'll win a lot of games. So I got to Masters, and I played on an account that was in bronze, pretty low bronze as well, right? And I played on that account, and I won every game up until gold, and then I lost a couple games. And then I didn't really play on the account that much after that, to be honest with you, because I'm not that interested in stomping on people that are not as good as me. Like, I'd rather play against people who are, like, kind of my skill level, right? I'm not interested in the smurfing just for the sake of stomping on people thing. But, like, what do you expect to happen, exactly? You threw yourself down to a rating way lower than you are meant to be at. And then you're surprised that you went on a really long winning streak. And, like, I play tank and support. When I played on the bronze account, I played soldier, and I won every game because I just knew how to position, and they didn't. So I just shredded them as they ran at me, right? And this wasn't even when soldier was that strong, right? Like, you know how to play the game. Why are you surprised you went on a huge winning streak against people way lower rating than you are meant to be at? I don't get it. Clearly it's rigged, apparently. Well, on my other account was sitting pretty in Masters with a balanced win-loss ratio, because that's where you're meant to be. I don't understand. Why do I have a balanced win-loss ratio in the SR I'm supposed to be in, but when I was in a way lower SR that I threw to get to, I won every game? I don't... What a mystery. Fucking it must be rigged, mustn't it? Clearly every player's got like a fucking agent assigned to them. Someone at Blizzard HQ just watching them queue up, like, drag a smurf over, drag a smurf... Oh, no. What's one too many smurfs? Take one away. Now, I recently came back to Overwatch some weeks ago, and on my main I got high diamond, and on my ult I got gold. Don't ask me how I got gold on that account, because it doesn't make sense, but rest assured... What do you mean? It doesn't make sense. Did you win but lost SR anyway? Like, why doesn't it make sense? The highest I've managed to get to is 2,700 after 200 games on that account. I've had this rigged stuff at the back of my mind for a while, but it makes sense now. He's had a revelation. All sessions are streak-like with intermittent win-loss, but it looks something like win-win-win-win, loss-win-win, loss-loss-loss-loss, win-loss-loss. And the sum is basically +0. Yes, because most people have a 50% win ratio, or within a slight few percentages of that. So yes, a lot of, like, over a long period of time, it's going to break out to being basically 0. A lot of the time, yes, that's how statistics often work like that. If you're close to 50%, that means you win and lose roughly the same amount of games. So, you know, you take a big sample size, it breaks out to 50-50 if you look at it in a big enough scale. That's why it's at 50%. Anyway. This man, he doesn't sit down and goes, oh sick, I won 4 games in a row today, and then goes the next day, ah shit, today I only won 1 and won 2 and lost 1, so I didn't win as much. Ah shit, I had a really bad day today. No, he doesn't look at that. He's like ultimate big picture. He's like, if you make the bigger number of samples big enough, it's really close to 50%. Why is that? Why is it so close to 50%? Blizzard's rigging it. The enemy is so bad. Winning streak games, I feel the enemy is so bad I'm playing against bots. I really mean this. I can turn my brain off completely and shred bully them just with aim and headshots, and there's nothing they can do. Almost like I'm a Masters player and I threw down to fucking silver. During the streak, I get 3-4 gold medals with ease, an average 3 kills per minute, and the games are just complete shitstorms. Teammates are very collaborative and use voice chat. They are positive, engaged, and listen to calls. Healers heal, tanks tanks. Nobody is toxic. Losing streak games, he's got a lot to say about this in comparison, hasn't he? Every single time I've climbed too much, I can almost, with 100% certainty, tell before a game even starts that I'm going to lose. So I'm coming into this game with the mindset that I'm 100% or close to going to lose, and then I lost. What's a self-fulfilling prophecy? I haven't heard of that before. That sounds stupid. I do play my best still. Even though I've already resigned the fact that I'm going to lose, this clearly has no effect on my my morale at all. And I do understand that the psychological tilt can be subtle, but it's almost comical how accurately I can assess these games. Whoa. Not a single person in voice chat, and if they are trolling, chewing loudly, or flaming hard as fuck. Oh yeah. The fucking trinity of absolute assholes. Trolling, calling people slurs, and chewing loudly. The tanks are abysmal, and the heals are non-existent. Oftentimes the comps are awful as a result of this, and my suspicion is they are placing 6 people of the same role in these losing streak games. Now a team that is 3,000 rated is playing at 2,500 rating because they are playing characters they have no experience playing. Oh, I see. So it's not just that they sometimes drag the Smurfs over into it. Sometimes they also go, you know what'd be funny? If we put 5 Mercy mains on this one team comp. And now we'll put a few Smurfs over there as well. Oh, won't he be pissed off? Nobody changes. Nobody does anything. It's almost eerie how these games behave so identical every single time, to the point where I feel like the people I am playing with are bots. I do my best and produce pretty good results. But in these games, the enemy players are considerably better than what is usually the case. They all hit their shots. They use good ults. They have disgusting presence. These players I can deal with very well, as long as we're on an even footing, which we are not. As long as things are rigged a little more in my favor, I can stand on them, but as soon as things get adverse, not so much. Where, I deal with these players frequently on my other account, and I used to play against such players when I was in Masters before I took a break and threw myself down here at one point. The thing is, I am that player as well when I'm on my winning streak, and I do play very well against them and rarely embarrass myself. I always play well, except when I don't, because things are rigged. But the problem is, now they have a really solid team, healers and tanks, and are allowed to play like that against me, who would also play exactly like that in that same team, but now have to play with some of the worst players playing roles they can't play. And knowing the tanks and supports enable DPS, it is just impossible to deal with 2-3 good players almost completely solo. We already read that paragraph. Now again, nobody is saying we shouldn't be able to deal with good players if we want to climb. Of course we should deal with good players, but we should be playing against good players on even footing. I can't deal with 3 fucking Smurfs if I'm playing with a team of people who clearly have been hard stuck for a grotesque period of time, and who likely are in the middle of a losing streak and therefore tilt prone. Oh, there's another layer to it. It also goes, alright, so we drag some Smurfs over, we drag 6 Mercies over, but now, also, let's make sure half those Mercy players are in the middle of a losing streak as well. Does this button still do that? Won't he be upset? This is so painfully obvious that I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to begin 8 paragraphs in. It's so obvious because my stats, KDA, elims, accuracy, etc. are higher at Masters than at low Platinum. To anyone with a brain, the meaning behind that is obvious. I am clearly capable of dealing with much better players as long as I have a good team with me. Wow. If you have a lot of good teammates, you'll play better. Whoa. Crazy. Can you play well by yourself, though? Can you play well when you have okay players on your team? Or do you specifically need good players on your team to be able to do good? Can you not do well with just okay players, you know? If you got a few people on your team that are like flex mains, right? Can you carry them? You know, can you do well in that? Or do you specifically, like, do you, Genji, need to always get nano boosted? Do you, Pharah, require being pocketed by, like, do you need 2 main healers so Mercy can just sit with you constantly the whole time because you're not actually that good at positioning and you need, like, a little, you know, you need a buffer over here, like, you know? You know, if I'm playing with good players, I play better. Crazy, you know. But if I don't play with good players, I play bad. So, rigged. And we know the silly argument. Why is it? Oh yeah, we read that one as well, didn't we? In summary, this is what the system appears to do, from what I've been able to gather over the years. Win streak. You end up with teammates that are often positive and get good commendations. They are in the middle of a winning streak. You end up with a team of 2 tanks mains, 2 healer mains, and 2 DPS mains. This way, you are actually playing at your rating because everyone is playing their main. You end up with teammates that are low level, suggesting they are not hard stuck and are already doing great despite little time invested. Alternatively, even Smurfs. Interesting. When the low-level player is on your team, They might be a smurf, but, you know, they're also probably just doing really well, even though they invested little time. But when those low-level players are on the other team doing well... the smurfs are out again, I see. Hi, Spirits. Lots of voice chat usage, and games are super easy as hell. Are easy as hell, not super easy as hell. That would be too much. The enemy team is always a bunch of tilted kids who play shitty comps and feel like practice bots. These games are so easy, I can't believe I am getting 10 of these in a row, and in the next game I am getting what feels like GM players who headshot every time I peek, at virtually the same rating. It's a joke. Almost always payloads maps that I have extremely high win rate on. Now it looks at the maps as well. Shit, there's so many layers to this system. Fuck, now it's reaching into the map pool as well. And now it goes, alright, we want this guy to win. So let's see, what does he do? Ah, he's really good on Gibraltar. Let's put alright, so drag Gibraltar over. Alright, so let's put a few Smurfs on. Oh, no, not Smurfs. No, take those away. Let's put the really, like, naturally talented people on his team. Not the Smurfs. Those go over here in the separate bin. Let's put those over here. Obviously, 2 of each. We gotta delineate, right? And then, alright, so now we want him to win, right? So what are we gonna do over here? This guy lost 10 games in a row. Let's put that one over there. Okay, nice. And now let's put 4 more of him over there, and they're all Mercy mains. Nice. Okay, great. Oh, we want him to lose. He hates Horizon. How unusual. So let's drag Horizon over. Right, yeah. The system is so deep. Holy shit. Blizzard's invested a lot of time into this system, haven't they? Why are they doing this, by the way? What? Why are they doing this, exactly? Just pure malice, I assume, right? Like, what did Blizzard have against just random players? Like, oh, we're gonna force a losing streak on this guy because we hate him, I guess, right? Or why are they doing this? To what end game exactly have we compiled this extremely complicated system that rigs games so that you go on winning streaks and losing streaks? Like, why have we done this? Just to fuck with people, pretty much. Oh, fuck, we got a summary for the summary. Holy shit. I am pitted with losing streak. I am pitted with the most toxic players at my current rating, who likely are in the middle of a losing streak. Everyone in the team plays the same role. If you play DPS at 3000 and you're placed to play with tanks with little experience, you are no longer playing at 3000. Why aren't you playing at 3000? If you're 3000, why can't you play like you're 3000? Just because you're not... Like, why... You know... Like, yeah, you know, your teammates have an effect on you, but, like, why is it entirely, like, fucking Dragon Ball Z power level thing, where, like, you've had just, like, they put the weighted clothing on you, and suddenly your power level has gone down? So presumably, if you're, like, the greatest Widowmaker player in the world, right? Oh, no, we can't go that high. Presumably, if you're one of the best Widowmaker players in the world, but not the best, because, you know, those don't count. We can't do that argument. So if we take a fucking Masters Widowmaker player, right? Or Grandmasters Widowmaker player, right? Let's stay away from, like, top Grandmasters, like, High Masters. You know. And we put her in gold. Apparently... they don't play like a High Masters Widowmaker player anymore. Apparently, they will physically weigh you down, right? Like, apparently, that Widowmaker will forget how to use her zone threat. They'll forget how to click the bad men, right? They'll forget how to position. They'll forget how to use their abilities. They'll forget how to use... Like, apparently, all that will happen because their teammates are bad, right? Like, that seems to be the argument here, right? Doesn't it? Like, yeah, you know, if your tanks are really bad and you're playing like Anna, okay, right, you know, that makes life more difficult for you, yeah. But, like, this guy's a DPS player, right? We can pick that up from a few context clues about how he's headshotting everybody, right? So, why, exactly, if you're a DPS player, do you require your tanks and healers to be really good? Like, yeah, if they're really bad, that's gonna make it difficult for you, right? No doubt. But, like, if you're a DPS player, like, if you're a Masters level DPS player, and you get placed with, like, some platinum players, you should still be able to win that game. Right, like, you should still win that game more often than you lose that game, assuming you can consistently play at that level. Because you're playing a full 2 brackets below where you're meant to be at, right? So, like... Anyway, so... It's like, alright. So I'm at my level, even though most of this argument, like, he's saying he does fine on his normal account, right? But, like, with a relatively even win-loss ratio. How strange. In the SO that he's meant to be in. Like... I just want to know how you sit down at your desk and you go, my win-loss ratio is really close to 50%. Sometimes I win and lose a few games trading, but, like, sometimes I win a few games in a row and sometimes I lose a few games in a row. How suspicious. I gotta do some science. So you go and get your other account, and you throw down several categories lower than you're meant to be. And then you win a bunch of games in a row. And you go, how did this happen? What rigged system let me go on this extremely long winning streak? And, like, how does it decide? So here's a question for you, right? So we decided, earlier, where the fuck was this thing? About how he threw down. So, I got huge win-loss streaks after one another until I hit a really good win streak, which propelled me to 36,000 rating without a single loss. Now, this boy was down in 1900 previously, right? Because he threw his way down there, right? How did the system decide that? Like, why does the system go, alright, it's time for you to be a Masters player now? Why, like... So, presumably the system goes around and just, like, if it operates this way, where it just picks winning and losing streaks arbitrarily for people, right? So, presumably it just sits down sometimes and goes, hey, the silver player, you get good job. Great, good news. You get to be a Masters player now. Huh? I do? Yeah! Congratulations. You're a Masters player now. Oh, okay. Even though, like, the system should not be able to do that, because, like, Overwatch, like, it's very easy to throw a game by yourself as Overwatch, right? So, like, the system apparently has huge potential to swing you to completely different brackets, apparently, right? Because apparently this guy, hey, he had a few win-loss streaks, but hey, then suddenly he got a really big winning streak. How does that happen exactly? Like, how is the system so foolproof that it could, like, reach over and take a bronze player up at NASR brackets through this system? Like, you can throw a game by yourself so easily in Overwatch, as this guy should be able to attest. Right? So, why does the system do this? For what reason? And, like, how with such, like, certainty? By apparently extremely rigged results. We haven't finished the summary yet. My bad. Sorry, I keep getting distracted because I think I just step back for a minute and look at the whole argument again, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. You're playing at 2,500. Now add 4 players like this, and you will see why there's a huge issue inherent in this fuckery. What should be 3,000 versus 300 match is now a 2,000 versus... Oh, I'm sorry. I've misunderstood that part of the argument. My bad. I've been thinking about the other part of the argument where he's, like, in the fucking lower SR games. You know, yeah, we don't have a role queue. That's a problem, right? Because that means, invariably, there are going to be games where people get forced onto roles they don't play. Particularly the lower popularity roles, right? Like, a DPS player is going to get shoved onto a healer or tank role fairly frequently. Like, that will happen. But, like, that's the variance of picking for them, because it doesn't care what you play. It looks at your rating and goes, you're this rating, you're that rating, you're this rating, you're that rating. Okay, these are all pretty close. You're on a team now. And then it looks at the other team and goes, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. Okay, that's all close. And it squishes you together and puts you against two. And it goes, okay. It goes over to the shelf and goes, all right. So I've got this team, and their average of 3,026. So let's go over here. Here's the 3,000 range. So we currently have another team in the 3,000. 3,050 is pretty close. Fight. That's what it does, right? Like, it doesn't look deeper than that, actually, right? Like, it doesn't look at your team and go, all right, so today, I've decided, oh shit, what have I done? I've decided today that fucking Jim Billy Bob over here, he's gonna lose every game he plays today. That's just what I've decided today. Well, why have you decided that, system? I just don't really feel like him winning today. I'm just not feeling it. I feel like he should lose today. So, I'm gonna come over here. All right, so let's pull out some few trays. So we gotta pull out the Smurf tray first off, right? So we gotta stack it against him first, right? So we should start here. Smurf, 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 Smurf. Oh wait, nope, that's 3 DPS Smurfs. 2 DPS Smurfs. That's better. All right, tank Smurf, tank Smurf. Support Smurf, support Smurf. All right, all right, good. Now, all right, let's go over here. All right, so toxic asshole pile. All right, so we are obviously gonna need 4 DPS, right? Because that's only makes sense. And then we'll take 1 tank. There we go. And, okay, and he's a DPS player, so that's the other slot filled. Great, awesome. Oh, wait. Oh, shit, that guy won a few games. Oh, shit, no, can't do that. Take that one in. All right, replace with losing game. Okay, awesome. Good job, team. Now fight. Ah, he lost. Why did you do that? Ah, I just felt like it. It's such a... Dude, this guy's had to think of so much shit, hasn't he? Oh, it's the Koth maps. It's the Koth maps are always the maps where I lose the most. Oh, no. Shit. Oh, God. Those are the maps that require the most, like, individual input, right? Because those are, like, the closest maps we have to deathmatch. Oh, fuck. Shit. It's all coming together for me now. Okay. Oh, further summary. The game pits players that are on a winning streak versus players that are on a losing streak, and also pits teams of a tank healer DPS against a team of 5 DPS main and 1 healer. As such, the odds are clearly against the latter. The nature of this type of matchmaking heavily implies heavy psychological disadvantages for the team that is on a losing streak, and also statistical disadvantages. Shit, dude. It's statistically disadvantaging you, but then it also beats you into submission at the same time. Only when you are able to break this losing streak convincingly, i.e. by playing out of your goddamn mind, because you are literally beating some crazy fucking odds and pulling enormous weight, only then are you able to break the cycle and enter the win streak. Oh, we finally found it. We've finally found how the system decides what you're doing. It goes, he's losing. Alright, so I've done all those previous steps to rig the game. Now fight. Now fight again. Now fight again. Oh, he won that one. Ooh, now fight again. Ooh, he won again. Oh my goodness. Fight again. Oh shit, he won 3 times. All right, okay. Hold on. We gotta shuffle some things around now. So let me take all those people out of his team. Throw them in the fucking trash. All right, so now let's reach over here into the magically gifted not Smurfs in bracket folder. And 2 DPS. No, he's a DPS. 1 DPS, 2 tanks, 2 healers. Perfect. Now, over here, get these Smurfs out of here, fucking assholes. God damn, I hate that. Now, let's reach over to toxic assholes. 5 DPS, 1 healer. Fight. Okay. Oh, look at him go. What a champ. What a champ. Apparently, that's what the system does. Of course. Of course, that's what it does. And the cycle continues. The way to climb is really play out of your goddamn mind. Play far, far, far better than your current rating. Not only with a team below the skill level of the current rating, but also against a team of higher actual skill than the current rating. You must play out of your goddamn mind when these games come along. If you don't, prepare for a in-game losing streak. God damn. What did the 7 comments say? I swear to God, if they agree with him. Oh my God. Blizzard definitely listens into each match played and finds all the mouth breathers and loud chewers to put them on your team to encourage you to lose. I forgot about the loud chewers part. He fucking hates ASMR, right? So let's go over to the mouth breathers category. Oh god. Listen. This is an awfully well presented conspiracy theory. The game isn't true. Assuming you have two different ranks, mostly because you're either A, are unable to beat the enemies at the lower rank mechanically and play poorly with your team, and playing with team higher ranks to enable you to help you stay at that rank. Yeah, this is stupid. I've seen Masters Annas climb out of bronze back into Masters without any losing streaks. It will put you in more and more games you are supposed to lose. The system tries... I don't know. Okay. Should bookmark it. I'll give you a less well-explained TLDR version. Person A plays like a bronze silver player, had this friend log into an account to get him out of the toxic ranks. The game looks at past statistics and sees the player suddenly has aim and survivability of a diamond player. Game places the player in matches it deems as 50-50 to assess further. After further confirmation the player seems to be diamond skilled, it places the player in easy win matches to move them up faster. Yes, it also increases the amount you win at the same time, because it looks at your MMR and your SR and goes, there's a big discrepancy between these two numbers, so we gotta get them together again as quickly as possible. It can start dropping in people on the enemy team that get reported a lot or have crap survivability, gold damage, and kills Moira with bronze heals. The diamond skilled player climbs rapidly till the system sees them where they should be. It now stops stacking the deck and does some 50-50 games. Once the person reaches above the rank of where the game thinks they should be, it might try to reduce your chances, this time putting a toxic player on your team. Even this is getting pretty conspiracy theory, isn't it? Now that the rank is out of the cancer, the original player is playing again. The system sees the mechanics are once again a bronze tier player. It tests them with a few 50-50s, and after seeing they don't perform, it starts stacking the deck against them. All the time they are in a tier... See, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that it... I'm more inclined to believe that than, you know, above. But even that's kind of, like, iffy to me. Secret that Blizzard's goal was to always keep your win... It isn't a well-known secret that Blizzard's goal was always to keep your win rate around 50%. Nah, man. Tish Overwatch has got it figured out. Players' MMR is largely representative of their win rate. That is, your MMR is based mostly... He's still in a pool of mid-plat as... Every game he faces a team who can balance out his MMR. Thus, the frustrating situation appears where it feels every game is stacked against him. He starts to struggle and his SR falls too, and MMR adjusts down too. As well to match his reduced win rate. Thus, a cycle repeating. Apparent win-loss streaking and frustration that arises from it are a result of your MMR guessing at your true rating and fluctuating either side of them. So where is this definitive summary coming from? Oh, some dude on the Overwatch forums. Great. Shit. Ooh, fuck, he's got drop-downs. So our accurate source of what is known about the Overwatch MS rating system is some dude who posted on the forums once. Nice, nice, nice. Oh, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? God damn. Shit, dude. What a good time. What a good time. Thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. And I hope you found the video helpful.